Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hema Sanjay, and I am an educator for over 16 years now, and most of it with the PYP. I am also an IB PYP workshop leader and school visiting team member. And I've been involved with the early years in creating, developing, and implementing programs for the early years students. I take great pleasure in welcoming you all for this webinar session organized by Oakridge International School. Today's webinar topic is Education for My Child, and we focus on inquiry and play in the early years. The objectives of the webinar are as displayed on your screens. And who is this webinar for? This webinar is for parents who have little children at home and who have so many doubts whether they are giving the best for their child. This webinar is also for teachers who are passionate to know what works best for their children. And during the presentation, if you have any questions, please type your name clearly and type in your question in the chat box that you see. In case you have more questions which you don't feel like writing in the chat box, please ensure that you do email us at info@oakridge.in. Let me begin the presentation. Let me introduce to you today's learner.
दुकान और 32 दांत होते हैं।
क्या आपने उसे देखा है?
हाँ, फिर बचपन में।
फिर तो बुढ़ा भी हो गया होगा। आने दो उसे, देख लेंगे।
Close pair of stars. चलो, हो गई स्टोरी, अब सो जाओ।
मैं एक और स्टोरी।
अरे, तुम सोई नहीं?
पापा, तुम सुनाओ, मैं अभी आई।
सो जा, वरना बुगी मैन आ जाएगा।
बुगी मैन? वो कौन है?
जिसके पाँव के 2 कान और 32 दांत होते हैं।
क्या आपने उसे देखा है?
हाँ, फिर बचपन में।
फिर तो बुढ़ा भी हो गया होगा। आने दो उसे, देख लेंगे।
A close pair of stars. चलो, हो गई स्टोरी, अब सो जाओ।
मैं एक और स्टोरी।
अरे, तुम सोई नहीं अभी तक?
पापा, तुम सुनाओ, मैं अभी आई।
सो जा, वरना बुगी मैन आ जाएगा।
बुगी मैन? वो कौन है?
जिसके 2 आंखें, 2 कान और 32 दांत होते हैं।
क्या आपने उसे देखा है?
हाँ, फिर बचपन में।
फिर तो बुढ़ा भी हो गया होगा। आने दो उसे, देख लेंगे।
A close pair of stars. चलो, हो गई स्टोरी, अब सो जाओ।
मैं एक और स्टोरी।
अरे, तुम सोई नहीं अभी?
पापा, तुम सुनाओ, मैं अभी आई।
सो जा, वरना बुगी मैन।
बुगी मैन? वो कौन है?
जिसके 2 आंखें, 2 कान और 32 दांत होते हैं।
क्या आपने उसे देखा है?
हाँ, फिर
Many of us have experienced this, dear parents. Our children never fail to amaze us. We are always surprised by their smartness, I'm sure. Let me give you another instance.
Butter. I'm on vacation.
गुड मॉर्निंग ब्रदर।
अंकल,
Yes.
आपको हिंदी आती है?
Yes.
मुझे भी आती है।
Isn't that wonderful? Don't you see this amazing skill in the child and ability in your children? We can never underestimate our children. Our children are always full of questions. Why? Where? How? What? When? It's so difficult to have energy to match up with theirs, isn't it? We are all in an ever-changing world. Things that happen today keeps changing tomorrow. And in such a world, that did you know that there are In order to solve problems, we don't even know what the problems are. And the top 10 in-demand jobs in 2010 did not even exist in 2004. This is the kind of change that I'm talking about. And when we have situations like this, how do we ensure that we prepare our children for the future, that's for tomorrow? Just imagine, today's child will enter the job arena in 2035. I mean today's preschooler. And today's preschooler will retire in the year 2070. Ladies and gentlemen, do you have any idea how the world is going to look like then? No. So the question continues. The doubts in our minds as parents, as educators, continues. Is this traditional system that we are all so used to? We studied in those traditional systems where there was one teacher and we had about 40 children, and if we were lucky, 30 children in a class. The teacher was delivering the content. We were passive listeners. So do you think this kind of a system is what our children need today? One size fits all setup. Remember all our exams? There was one textbook and we had just one answer from those textbooks which was considered as the correct answer. Do you think this is the kind of setup that we want our children to get into? Where superficial knowledge is given prime importance. Is this right for our children? And assessments is based on memory recall or memorizing rather than understanding of the content, of the concepts. Back to our doubts again. So are we doing the right thing for our children? Is this the best that we can give our children? Today's learner is the 21st century learner. Ladies and gentlemen, they are called digital natives. They're called digital natives because they are born with digital, in the digital era. And we are digital immigrants because we have learned the nuances of how to handle technology. So I'm sure you have situations where your children are much more tech savvy than you are. And that happens it's the same case with our teachers as well. The children are much more tech savvy than all of us. We educators believe that our children are highly curious. They are not afraid of making mistakes at all. And they have high self-esteem. So with this kind of situation, with these children, what do you think as parents, as educators, our children need to experience? Let's think about it. Let's try and understand. So what is this play and inquiry that I'm talking about, and how does it suit the need of today's learner? Let me just narrate the famous adage to all of you. Some of you must have heard about it. Tell me and I forget, show me and I remember, involve me and I understand. It's this last part of this adage that plays the essence of inquiry. Children are involved in understanding what they are learning. In our inquiry classrooms, there are no walls. By that, I mean inquiry can happen anywhere and everywhere. It's not confined to the four walls of the classroom. Children are not passive listeners. Children are not just sitting and listening to the content being delivered. Children are working, strategizing, talking, problem solving, cooperating. Our classrooms are learner-centered. By that, I mean the child, the individual child is the focus. Children are unique. There's no one-size-fits-all setup for our children. Learner-centered means the lesson plans of the teacher is focused around individual child. Because the children are doing what they want to learn, are trying to understand what they want to learn, they willingly participate. They love coming to school. They love learning. And we use multiple resources. It's not just the teacher imparting knowledge. It's not a whole class approach. You will see that our classrooms have children in groups doing various activities or strategies. These are all designed with an outcome in mind. Children are creating questions of their own. We'll get to there later. The teachers encourage the children to ask multiple questions, innovate, create, and not just asking questions. The children reflect and analyze on the data, on the information that they have gathered. So there is that need to know factor involved here. With this understanding, our children make connections to their learning and to the world outside. So let me talk about the benefits of inquiry. And before I get into the benefits of inquiry, I should be telling you that inquiry starts when the child is born. How many of you have experienced that your little children, little babies, the toddlers are so curious? They want to know more things. They recognize faces. They recognize the touch. They use all their 5 senses to find out more. If you see a socket, I'm sure a toddler is very curious to put his finger in the socket to see what is there. I'm sure many of us have experienced this in our lives. So this skill is what is being utilized here. And the benefits of inquiry. Inquiry will have true differentiation. Every child is unique. Every child is an individual. So the plans are designed in such a way that these children learn from the strategies that's designed. And also, inquiry develops the habits of the mind. This makes the child a lifelong learner. It is not just for passing that particular grade or having success in the classroom, but this is for lifelong. These habits the children use lifelong to ensure that they progress and they become a success. So when all this is being done by the children, what is the role of a teacher? The teacher plays a very important role. She is called the facilitator of learning. She or he is called the facilitator of learning. They provide stimulating environment and they ensure that the curriculum is relevant and engaging and is embedded in technology. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to make a point here. Embedded in technology means the application of technology, and it is not knowing about the technology. Technology is just a tool that helps, that enhances the learning in our children. The teachers also ensure that literacy and numeracy are integrated with the learning. Teaching doesn't happen in fragments in an inquiry classroom. You do not have an English class, you do not have a math class. We integrate the entire thing so that the children make meaning out of their learning and apply it. The teacher also ensures that she customizes the plans as per the needs of the children. We have children who have various abilities. Some are extremely smart and quick in picking up concepts. Some take a little time. But the pace that we follow is at the child's pace. And there's one important skill that the teacher develops in the children. She ensures that she scaffolds the learning competencies of the children. By that I mean from one level of competency to the next. So in a class, you will see children at various competency levels. The teachers also provide authentic assessments. Assessments before inquiry, continual formative assessments, and the summative assessments. Learners construct meaning. By all these experiences, we ensure that there is enough progress in the child. So how is this play and inquiry connected? Play also creates new experiences in our children. The children are able to work with groups. They learn to collaborate. They learn to cooperate. Just imagine your own work environment. What exactly is happening there? What are the skills that you are using? And is the content that you learned probably in grade 9 or 10 relevant anymore? Just have a thought about that. So play also enhances imagination and out-of-the-box thinking in our children. All of us, with the kind of education system that we have had, we are so focused on one direction thinking. Our children think out of the box. So this is what is being developed in an inquiry classroom. All these experiences make our child a well-prepared child, equipped and confident, because we need to prepare our children for their future and not our past. So, let's catch up with the best, ladies and gentlemen. I present to you the IB PYP. In case of any questions, dear parents, please ensure that you type it in the chat box with your name. If you have questions that you don't want to type it in the chat box, kindly ensure that you email it to us at info@oakridge.in. We will get back to you. So I present to you the IB PYP.
Good morning, PYP. We have live action.
What's your name?
Okay, I'm Rory and this is,
Nadine.
and we'll be here to talk about the PYP.
The International Baccalaureate means learning for life, means where learning makes sense.
A type of education that is going to create global citizens, children, that as they become adults, we're going to take the way that the world will go forward.
Le programme du baccalauréat prépare les enfants à leur future vie pour la simple et bonne raison qu'on leur apprend à penser par eux-mêmes et à réagir face à des situations dans la vie réelle.
Primary program is very special in that it's inquiry-based, and inquiry-based means allowing the learner to actually want to learn. The learner becomes responsible for his or her own learning. So it's not what the teacher wants me to do, it's not what my parents want me to do, it's what I...
I'm sure this video set all your minds thinking, my dear parents and fellow educators. Let me go on to the questions now. I see that there are a lot of questions that are being posted on the chat box. We will try and address them as many as possible. Thank you for your patience. Okay, we have Ms. Khushbu who has asked us, are children being given homeworks? Well, Ms. Khushbu, I need to tell you that homework, what we have in mind, is just not the one that is being given in our inquiry classrooms. There is an involvement of the parent, teacher, and the student together. So there you may see that there are some projects, there are some assignments which all of us together have to ensure that we help the child to develop his understanding. So it's not a conventional homework, but yes, there will be projects, assignments, which will be shared with the child. Let me tell you that this has to be ensured that the role of the parents here is to ensure that the children work on these assignments by themselves. Thank you. So we have Mr. Pavan Kumar who has asked us another question. Mr. Pavan is from Hyderabad. So while I agree that children are more tech savvy than us, but is there a way we can make it balanced for getting them addicted? I totally agree with you. Any overusage of anything is not good for us. Any addiction is not good for us. All of us are aware of that. As I mentioned earlier, technology is just an application, is just a tool that is used to enhance the learning of our students. It's definitely not to sit for hours together and play games or get addicted to. In our inquiry classrooms, technology supports the children in learning. I'll also tell you, there are some children who have problems in writing. So maybe the teacher feels that this child is able to type his answers or is able to present his understanding in the form of a presentation much more easier, where he can show his learning instead of just the pen and paper method. So that's where technology can be used. I hope that answers your question. We have another question by Ms. Khushbu again. Is the syllabus in IB on par with any other curriculum? As I mentioned, the curriculum is designed by our teachers, keeping the understanding of the child. The child is in the center of any plans that we have, and the learning objectives are definitely there. We will ensure that every child learns at his own pace. So, the syllabus or the curriculum as such is focused on skill development rather than just the knowledge or the content. As you know, content can be made available to anybody at the click of a button these days. Thank you. Moving on to the next question. Mr. Reddy from Hyderabad. How is this PYP inquiry methodology better than a CBSE or a CP program? Well, Mr. Reddy, I need to tell you that every program has its strengths and challenges. Let me emphasize on the strengths of the PYP. There is increased emphasis on child finding out answers for himself, and the focus is on individual child. Remember, I mentioned differentiation, whereas the whole class approach and the one right answer approach is not relevant anymore. So I hope that gives you some idea. We have more questions pouring in. Ms. Neelima from, she's not written, so Ms. Neelima has asked us, how about textbooks for PYP grade 1? Oh, as parents, this is one question that bothers us always, isn't it? Because knowledge that's available to us is what makes us feel very comfortable. Textbooks, we believe, educators believe, that is restricting the child's understanding to whatever is written just in the textbook. Instead of one textbook, we use multiple resources, multiple reference books. So the resource range that is available to the child is wide. So we do not limit the children, especially a grade 1 child, with just textbooks. However, textbook is definitely used as one of the resources, one of the multiple resources that I'm talking about. Another question. Mr. Sunil, how are the children prepared for competition in Indian context, or is IB only for foreign studies? This is again a very, very common question that all of us, especially the Indian parents, have in mind. I'm a parent and I've been through these doubts as well. The focus of the PYP is not just the content assessment or the knowledge. The focus of the PYP is to make the children lifelong learners, to ensure the children will know how to learn rather than just the what to learn. And with these skills being developed, of course, they will be able to be a success in whichever situation you put them. Thank you. Ms. Neha says, "Hi, I agree with the benefits of inquiry-based methodologies, but don't you think for things like sensory training and teaching letters and numbers, the Montessori approach is more effective and should be included as well?" Well, Ms. Neha, that's a very valid observation. As I mentioned, every curriculum has its strengths and challenges. And the way the teacher designs inquiry strategies in the class is to ensure that there's the knowledge, the understanding of the children moves from one level of competency to another. So the resources that she uses is totally depending on the teacher, the children that she has, and the prior knowledge that the children have. So Ms. Neelima has asked again, how's IB PYP different from Montessori method of teaching, Montessori method of learning? I would like to say that the IB PYP is inquiry based. Children use all their five senses to understand, just like the Montessori, they use all their five senses to understand the nature, the world around them. So inquiry is the base of the IB PYP. The children sit together in a classroom. They work on strategies or provocations, as we call them. The teacher is a silent observer. She keeps writing their comments, observations, which we call as anecdotal records. And this helps the teacher plan her lessons further and take them to the next level of understanding. We have Ms. Pramada, who's asked us this question. Good morning. My child is into grade 2, and how do I know my child would be able to take the IB methodology? Very, very valid question as a parent. As a mom, even I've been through this doubts many, many times. As I mentioned earlier in my presentation, Ms. Pramada, children are born inquirers. You must have seen that a baby, a toddler, is so curious about various things around him. So they want to find out more by using all their five senses. And any child has all these three highly amazing skills that we as educators and parents need to develop. That's their curiosity, their creativity, and their confidence of not making mistakes. So we have one more question. Mr. Raj has asked us, as you said, natives and migrants, maybe all your teachers are not natives of IB. So how do you ensure teachers too think out of the box? This is so very, very good. We have seen that it's very difficult to train an adult mind than children. We have seen that the adults become much more resilient, much more, they are not ready to accept the changes than the little ones. However, we have to ensure that the educators who come into PYP are passionate educators who have the aptitude and the attitude to learn. And there are many, many programs, IB workshops that are there, which we make the teachers attend, and the teachers are also learners in this process. Thank you. There is this question from Mr. Mick, who has asked us about trained teachers. What do we do if we don't get trained teachers? And Mr. Mick is from Delhi. So are there any agencies which train teachers for PYP? Mr. Mick, the IB has a very strong professional development setup. And it's a mandatory requirement that all teachers go through the IB PYP workshops before they get into the class. And it's also the responsibility of the school to ensure that all the teachers are trained to impart this methodology in the class. I hope this answers your question. I have missed a couple of questions here. I think after these questions, I will end this presentation. So we have Ms. Sunaina, who's also from Delhi, who's asked us, why shouldn't I just tell the students the facts? Well, Ms. Sunaina, facts change. Information is got to the children at the click of a button. So please reflect, think, do you think just facts are enough? Thank you. So one last question from Mr. Raghav. How is inquiry science teaching different than hands-on science teaching? Okay. So let me repeat the question. How is inquiry science teaching different than hands-on science teaching? Mr. Raghav, hands-on is not minds-on. So when we involve the children to first identify what is it that they want to learn, how is it that they are learning, why, how, and what, these are the lines that we follow. So hands-on always doesn't mean minds-on, as I mentioned. In a hands-on situation, the teacher may be conducting the experiments, while in a minds-on situation, the students are thinking always. One more, I think I'll take one last question. There are many questions pouring in, but I'll end this session with the question. And in case we are not able to answer all these questions, I repeat, please ensure that you send them to info@oakridge.in and we will get back to you with answers. The last question. Why is the time dedicated to this methodology a good investment? Any investment for our children is definitely a good investment, be it time, be it money, be it anything. I'm sure as parents, all of you will agree with me. If we ensure that there's learning, if the competency level of the children moves to a different level, why not? Isn't it worth it? That's it for now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being such a glorious audience. It's been a pleasure to be sitting here and conducting this webinar. Any questions, further questions you have, do email us. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Happy Saturday to all of you. Bye-bye.